We're so glad that you're with us today. If you are not with us, maybe you're watching the replay, and we're glad that you're here watching the replay. Let us know that you're watching the replay. Share this with your friends. Tag your people, right? Today we're going to be talking. We have Jessica Banner, who is our faithful friend on the Living Well channel, and she's going to tell us about who she is in just a minute. But I just think she's amazing. She's going to talk today about tune up to take off and be ready, be road ready. So we're walking into a new season with August here, which I can't believe August is here, which also just means that GGG is next week. So excited. But okay, Jessica, let us know who you are. Give us a little piece of your GGG story or your GCBN story. That's the word. For those that may not be a GCBN member, maybe they can know more about it. And thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jessica Banner. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling. I've been counseling for 18 years, did 10 of that in mental health until I transitioned into pastoral counseling, where I've predominantly done trauma resolution counseling, done a lot of work in adult and adolescent psychiatric and substance abuse, ran an adolescent program for 6 years, worked it for 10. Have just had a wide variety of opportunity, worked with children even outside of the counseling world, so very well versed with children and development and those processes. Out of that, helped launch a counseling department in the church and have worked to develop training for leaders and members of churches to be trauma informed. And that is currently moving forward in some programming and some development right now as I speak. And I guess a little bit about the story, which can lead to the rest of what I'm doing. I've been a part of this panel for about 3 years, and that's because I had a friend who came to me and said, I need you to meet Beth. And I was like, okay. And true to fashion, anytime she tells me I need to meet anybody, she never gets to make the introduction ever. I just meet them in the space with her on my own. Happens every time. She's always like, you need to meet this person. And she's not there when I meet them. She's there, but not there. So I was doing a training for a local nonprofit Beth was serving with at the time. And she came to that training and we just started chatting. And in the first 5 minutes, it was really funny because God immediately told me, she's going to ask you something and you need to say yes. And let me tell you, she said, I need to talk to you by the end of the week. And she was trying to get me to come to this meeting the next day, but I couldn't. I had like 9 clients. And so and she must have told me 3 times. And I said, I will meet with you by the end of the week. And that Friday, she said, come be on my panel. And I said yes. And she sounded shocked because I said, listen, God told me to already tell you yes. So here I've been for 3 years on this panel. Wellness Wednesday, we wrote a book, our devotional, and then was transitioned into Living Well Wednesday with some of those shifts. And GGG, wow. I met you leading into that GGG, and I started on the panel, and a couple months later, GGG came, and I was coming out of a pretty tough season of my life. I'd been caregiving for several years at that time and juncture, and lots of people had passed away, and I just was in a how do I regroup and start building my life, and also still dealing with lots of grief. And so I came to GGG, and it was just amazing. Like God just provided, because my world got very small caregiving, and GGG was an opportunity, and GCBN's been an opportunity to begin to expand my world, surrounding me with people who are like-minded and headed in the same direction as God's been giving me vision and things to do to step forward with plans and purposes. And I just have loved this community as a wraparound to supporting and having women and men, but particularly women who just they see where God's taken me, and they encourage me and they bless me. And it's just been such an encouraging environments. It's nice to have a lot of cheerleaders who have some grit behind their cheer, right? So who have some knowledge and some just wisdom behind their cheerleading to help you take those next steps. And so it's just really been a blessing, and it was a great respite going to GGG that year. And so this will be my 4th GGG this year. So I'm pretty excited. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, wait, out of GGG, we last year, me and another attendee, we've launched our Grace to Care business, which is really a caregiving podcast for family caregivers, because that's a real passion point for me and my co-host Fern Sapp. And so it has just been an adventure for us. We just started season 2, and we're about to launch some small groups for caregivers. So we're just there's just a lot. There's a lot. I got my hands in lots of pots because I got some other stuff I'm working on too. Got my own books to write. So that's a little about me, a little about my history here. So Beth, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and we'll get started, but don't forget to unmute.
I got you. Thank you so much. It's such a delight to be back on Living Well Wednesday with you. And as I listened to your intro, I was listening as someone that hadn't met you before, which I love me some Jessica better. I love me some. But it sounded like somebody that I would really love to know. I mean, I if I didn't know you already, and I don't know any other way to say that than just the way I just said it, you are an amazing young lady, and I'm privileged for the opportunity that Carol Love, told you that, and I was serving on the board for Family Promise, and when I saw you that day, and I don't know, but one day we need to go over there and check out the building we were in. But I saw light, the way the beam of light that came down from, did I ever tell you that? That you were like,
I
that
don't
was a
know.
beam of light. And it was like it was illuminated over you. And I was like, and then your presentation and what you were sharing and the synergy to what some of the things God was leading me then for Wellness Wednesday. I
Mhm.
couldn't wait. At lunch that day, I ran back to my home, which I live near to where Family Promise is, and I ran home because it was time for Living well, Wellness Wednesday at that time.
Mhm.
And I told Pamela Bridgman, I said, Pamela, I said, I found our replacement because, Rich had just left and they had relocated. And Christine hadn't joined us at that time. In fact, y'all joined simultaneously, I
Mhm.
believe. And so it was just such an awesome opportunity to meet you and for you and Fern to be together on Grace to Care and the wonderful work that you're doing is just a blessing. And all of the synergy of this, and what I love, which gives me an opportunity to do what you asked me to do, introduce myself. I'm Beth Copeland, and I'm the executive director of Georgia Christian Business Network. And we're even global right now, and we're going to fix that in due season. But I'm also the founder of God Golfing Girls, and this is our 11th year. And Lisa mentioned, hey, we're just 10 days or 9 days, I forget how many days she said away from that. And it's going to be an amazing event. My attire for today, yesterday I had on last year's outfit. Today I'm wearing our first and inaugural GGG. This was our first outfit, okay? And I'm like, God, we've come such a long way because now we have sponsors. Now we have opportunities. We had vendors before, I believe. I don't know at the first one, I think we did. But we've just evolved into something amazing. And I'm taking a little bit of your time today, Jessica, because you're talking about family and relationships and such. And one of the things, and I'm going to really talk about this when I have the privilege on the Sunday of the event of GGG to always present. And I'm going to talk about community a lot in my presentation, is what Holy Spirit's given to me. But this is the lead in of what you're saying. All of what you're talking about from your community with Carol and her inviting you into the community so that you could share your giftings that God has given to you. And then I show up as a board member to support the cause, and I get connected to you through community. Folks, then she comes to GCBN to support and to be a part of the network, joined, sponsors, supports on the platform. Then she attends GGG and she meets Fern Sapp, Dr. Sapp. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they connect. And do you see how it evolves when you connect? The number one opportunity that I highly recommend for anyone is when God leads you to do something, show up. Show up. If he's connected with you with the community, don't hold back and try to say, oh, I can't afford this or I can't do this or to be stingy when God is saying, I'm trying to connect you with what you've asked me for, to put you in the place of where you want to be. So, Jessica, thank you. That was not planned, and there was no way for you to even know that this was something that I'm already focused on because of where we've been in our lives recently with losing my husband. If it had not been for a community, oh my gosh, I don't know what we would have done. And more on that later, but I just want to encourage people that are listening. Thank you, Renee and Rebecca, for joining us, and Lisa being here and opening us up. There's a great work happening at Georgia Christian Business Network, and we need you to be a part of that because we've got kingdom business to handle. So today, I'm going to pass it back. I know that's not a full intro, but I can go ahead and invite you to go to our website, to gcbnetwork.com, learn more about who I am, who GCBN, what we're all about, what we're doing, and the great work that we're doing, that we won't come down. Okay. But today I want to pass it back to you, Jessica, to share with us about what we're going to discuss and the great thing that God has given to you for us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Beth, I've got a few extra minutes if you do, because this is good stuff. And I know we've done a lot of intro, but we will try to stay as close as we can to it. So, yeah, so Lisa kind of said, and, this year we've talked about shift, the acronym that Beth has. We get one every year, and we talked about, she and I talked this year about coming into this year really focusing on shift through Living Well Wednesday. So I prayed about it some as we were talking through curriculum and what we wanted to really focus on. And this month, this is go back to school month. And so God really just said, let's focus on the family, right? Like this is a season, it's a month that's usually marked by the movement of family. And even if you're single, it's still, the rhythms change in August. It changes in business. It changes because school goes back. And so those rhythms, we kind of lock in for that end of third and into fourth quarter, right? And so there's just a shift in the atmosphere, and it's not a bad time to check whether you're married, single, have kids, don't, so be encouraged and glean from it what you can, because any of this is relevant whether you're part of a family no matter what. And so
Excellent.
even if you're in a family that's comprised of friends, given circumstances, or church community, you're a part of a family. So these things are relevant. So our topic today, because of G next week, we're kind of bringing two topics together that I kind of talked about. So we're going to talk about how to tune up to take off. We're going to talk about preparation and direction for families, while we also talk about being road ready. That racing is a team sport, so there's things we got to talk about being a team and how do we communicate through that. So that's kind of where we're headed today as we get back into school. And, scripture reminds us that a house built with wisdom is established through understanding and strengthening through knowledge. And that's Proverbs 24:3-4. And when every family member knows that they're valued, heard, and working towards common purpose, the home becomes a place of stability, encouragement, and peace. And that's what we really want to help you guys with today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is preparation. We want to set our families up for success. So preparation is more than buying your school supplies or organizing calendars or running kids all over the place, right? It's about preparing hearts, minds, and routines for seasons ahead, right? You are helping prepare and build individuals, but also as a unit, right? Healthy families take time discussing upcoming commitments. They establish realistic expectations, create daily routines, and identify areas where each person may need additional support. Preparation reduces unnecessary stress because it replaces uncertainty with clarity. Spirituality, um, preparation is also included in things by being able to pray together, inviting God into the new season, and asking for wisdom, patience, and strength. A prepared family enters the school year with confidence because everyone understands the plan and their role within it. Right. And so, and certainly the spiritual part can come ahead of that. We may pray into that as we go into those places. Um, so, my question today is, why is preparation important, and how can families prepare in a way that would help everyone feel more confident and less stressed?
I love that question. And, I've got a lot of history with preparation with many a school season in the back. So you're taking me way back. And, the saying hindsight is better than 2020. And so I have some things to lend related to preparation, from things that I could have done differently that would have provided an opportunity to set my children up for better success and the family overall. But I do have some things to offer that I believe that I did well, looking back on those things and trying to figure this thing out. One of the things is the urgency from my perspective, is preparation starts with prayer. I mean, it is just urgent and important to start the child off on their day with prayer and some form of devotion. Now, I will tell you, that's one of the hindsights is sometimes it happened in the car on the way to school. And we take turns with someone leading the devotion or the word today, because we had a carpool with our nephews, and because they went to private Christian school, that was an opportunity for a drive. It was a distance from home. So by the time I did the carpool and picked up, there was opportunities that we had about 15, 20 minutes in the car. And I believe that it causes an opportunity to set the tone for the day. And so preparation, if you start it with prayer, but even backing up to what's happening in the morning. Do you have a morning riser? Or do you have someone that's a night owl? They had bedtimes that were important, but once the lights go out, who knows? And so they may wake up the next morning not ready. Preparing yourself is important. If
Mm.
I'm up in a rush, then I project whatever mood or however I'm feeling over to my children. And so that's important to remember, is that that home creates an atmosphere that that is peaceful, because they're going to transition to go in, to a setting with the teachers and the other students, and they're another environment. And if they're not positioned emotionally or mentally well, spiritually is important as well. Those are some thoughts that I'm having right now. Then to utilize the weekends to prepare for, and shut me down at any time, okay? Because and push back, if applicable, but to prepare like laundry and things like that, so they're not scrambling to try to figure out, putting things together for. Uh, I saw someone doing it on meme recently for the whole week and had little canister drawers, little plastic containers, put in the Monday through Friday outfits in there. We didn't do that, but the night before, I had them choose, what are you wearing tomorrow? Looking to see if it's raining. Is open, closed shoes were important. They had certain things they had
Mhm.
to wear at their schools. But it's so important to help them to organize, to prepare the whole person, rather than, and not just say, oh, you're just going to throw in something to get in the car and you're going to take you to school. But there's a lot that creates an opportunity to set the child up for success. And
Mhm.
that's important, that it doesn't just start that morning.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think those are a lot of great tips as a parent, doing preparation's important. I wrote here on my thing, planning increases probability of success, right? When we
Wow.
prepare, we're increasing the probability, and not just for any one person, we're increasing the probability of all of us having a level of success, right? Parents, you
Right.
have a lot you're managing. You have a lot of things
Mm,
going on, and that preparation helps your children to learn and develop good habits, to not it removes stress from another time, right? Like
right.
picking outfits out at the end of the day helps us in the morning when our time is limited and we're all waking up, and some of us are morning people and some of us aren't, and what happens if we hit the snooze button one too many, like it makes room. Preparation makes room for us, and it prepares us for success. And it allows us to account for the needs of other people, right? Because if we're talking about family, there's always more than one person involved, right?
Right.
and
Right.
and so that's important. And something I encourage this a lot in marriage counseling, and I encourage this even with families, is have meetings. I love Beth's tips because those are kind of day-to-day ways to be prepared, but you can also have other opportunities that are more focused and even more intentional, that have a bigger scope, right? Like it's kind of like in a business. You have your day-to-day operations, but you also have your planning committees, like where do we go forward to expand and grow. and
Mhm.
and so one of the things I encourage for couples, I encourage it at least once a month, if not bi-weekly, that they're having a family business meeting, a marriage family business meeting. I tell them you go on a weekly date night and you have at least 1 to 2 business meetings a month, and business does not get discussed on date night. Right?
Mm-mm,
Date night
mm-mm.
is for let's have fun together, let's play together, let's get to know each other, let's dream together. Business meetings are for the business of family. Who's doing what with the kids this week? What we need to get a new car. Let's talk about how we're going to do that. Like business meetings are for the business of family.
Mm-mm,
And they're good because they also, you can set goals and you can make
mhm.
plans for how you're going to reach those goals. I know some couples who do that once a year, whether it's the turn of the year or on their anniversary. They come together and say, what have we done well together? What are we challenged in? What do we really want to accomplish this year? And they make a plan. We don't think about doing that in our families sometimes, but we should, because
Yes.
it
Yes.
not that we're putting shoulds on people, but what a great tool. We do it in business to grow business. Why would we not do it in our families to grow the opportunity to fuel connection and learning and expansion for us as people and each other? And so when I think about that preparation going into the new school year, let's talk about it, right? Hey, what did you get out of last year? What do you want to do this year? What do you want to accomplish this year? Right? Let's talk about it. What feels hard about that? Let's make a plan for the challenges going in, and don't wait till the challenge is here. Do it now.
No,
Have the
no.
conversation so that child already knows. You know that you're a team. Hey, we're going to go into this together before there's ever even an issue. That way they know when there is an issue, guess who they're going to come talk to, because you've already prepared and you've
Excellent.
already made it clear, I'm on your team and I'm going to get behind you, right? So,
Love it. Love it. And the structure that you're rolling out prepares them for life. It starts, the fundamentals starts, they start at home if we would implement those. And it's so important. I said that I get my life together as a parent so that my child or my children have a chance of doing well in life. And the things that they learn repeatedly, they're going to repeat.
mhm.
It's so important.
Yep, absolutely. And
Yeah.
not to
So,
be intimidated by that. You can start in small ways. Like you don't
yes,
you
yes,
you can
no, no.
improve. You can always grow in it if it's not something you're used to doing, because most of us aren't. We're used to doing it in business, but we're not used to doing it in our families, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it just take a step. Even, and also those family meal times, great opportunities to be connecting and
yeah.
processing.
Oh, oh, oh.
Right.
You know what? The debriefs that we
Mhm.
used to have,
Yep.
after school. And Romy and Jess were talking about this just recently. Um, and Romy was basically brought it up and was sharing with Bianca. We were in here in my dining area, and he was looking at the parfait glasses and such that I haven't used in many years, but how they used to come home from school and I'd have them set up in fancy, and I'd have parfaits or just really just slushes, just some sherbet and some ginger ale and some pineapple juice and with long straws just to get them talking about what their day looked like and what did you learn today? Did you cause any problems or issues that I need to know about? What were your grades today or whatever? Just to give them an opportunity to debrief and to process the day before you go into another day.
Yeah.
And as often as possible, I did that for a number of years. And not every parent can do that. So I want to put this disclaimer out there because there were years prior to that that I wasn't able to do it. Later years, in the earlier years, I did it. But the later years, I was working and I was doing stuff. And, their dad was picking them up and who knows what he did, McDonald's or whatever you.
Well, and I'd say this to encourage you, use
Yeah.
what you've got, right?
Yeah.
You may not
Yeah.
be the parent who picks them up from school, or they may go to an after school program, but did you have the meal together? Are you putting them to bed? Where in the evening after work and school am I making a point of connection? That I
Yes.
have an
Yes.
intentional point of connection, and how you do that as a family is derived from what you have as a family. Your how you find your rhythm. We're not here to tell you what your
Excellent.
rhythm ought to be. It's just the encouragement of that connection, that intentional connection is so important. And you know what? Right. Maybe you can't do it 7 days a week, but can you do it 3 or 4? Because that
Yeah.
3 or 4 is still investment in the account, right? You are still
Excellent.
investing in the development. And so don't be discouraged. Don't hear that one way or another. Just where can I go from here? Because you know my word, be intentional. Be
Be
intentional.
intentional.
Right?
Be
Because when we are
intentional.
intentional, we have more favorable outcomes and we move towards the things that we want um, to have and do. And so I think this is a great segue into that next piece. And we have preparation, we're preparing, but we also, let's talk about family direction, living a shared purpose, right? And here's the truth. Your family is made up of individuals, and each of those individuals has a God given purpose and plan in the kingdom, right? But God put us together as a family, which means there's also an assignment in that, right? And
Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
said, we may have a multitude of families. We live in a broken world, right? And so some of us have had not great experiences, good experiences, but in the family that you call family, the family that God has brought together, there's a plan and a purpose, and God can continue to heal in those places. So we're not going to discard that. We're not, that's
Mhm.
not what we're talking about totally today, but there's room for that, and there's good people to talk to help you through that if that's a part of the story, right? So family direction, let's see what we got here. Um, Every healthy family benefits from having clear direction rather than simply moving from activity to activity. Direction answers the question, who are we becoming together? Families should regularly discuss the values they want to live by, the character they hope to develop, and the priorities that guide their decisions. Kindness, integrity, responsibility, faith, healthy relationships are all important attributes to develop. When parents consistently communicate the family's mission and values, children gain security because they understand what matters most. Shared direction helps families make decisions that align with their purpose rather than being solely driven by schedules or outside pressures. Right? So, we're going to talk about why are family values important and how can we be intentional in living those out together as a family.
Yeah. This is good stuff, Jessica. And honestly, I feel like tagging every um, parent, that has a child that's in school right now to think about this because honestly, this would have just full transparency, excellent opportunity when my children were young and we were rearing our children. So this is a valuable tool. Values are important because if you do not determine what is the direction for your home, someone else will. Because influence is a powerful thing, and it starts at any age. I mean, look at toddlers. They can be influenced by other toddlers. So you have to set the standard for what is going to fly in your home and what is not. Now, I know you said values, but I'm talking standards, values, all of that. And one of the things that confuses children is when we state those standards and we state those values, but then we don't exemplify those. So we have to be careful in putting it out there and making it certain that this is a family value and this isn't a you value. Okay. So the opportunity is, will we look and determine from a biblical, because we're talking Christian families. Okay. There's a great opportunity, it written here, it is written, whatever it is that you need to understand of what's going to cause good success in life, you can find it in the Word of God, right here in this Word. It is written, you know. Um, when we look at that, Matthew 4:4, um, it will take us, it will lead us and help us to understand what is important in life, what is important for us to concentrate on. And I love it, and I'm just turning to it to read it quickly. But he answered and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." When we are going through this life, we need direction. We all need direction. And as a family, a Christian family, your direction, our direction should come from the Word of God. And so the urgency of that happening would help to combat what we're experiencing in the world today. Is because when we align ourselves as a family unit and predetermine that this is going to be the standard
Mhm.
for this household. You know, it's as for me and my house, Joshua,
Mhm.
we shall serve the Lord. And I think that's primary and foundational to establishing values in life is, what is your value system based upon? What is foundational for that? You know, we're gonna, and then you start to outline all of those other things which falls under this. You know, we're gonna respect one another, and we're gonna love one another, we're gonna pray over our food, and we're gonna give thanks for it. You know, things like that follows that. And they, when you build them up in the home, they go out with the child, repeatedly building it up. Even when they see opportunities, they may have some level of shyness about praying over their food in front of others that are not praying, even in Christian schools, you know. Um, it's you set the standard in the home for
Mhm.
what you expect and hope and pray over your child to project outside of the home.
Absolutely. Yeah, I realized I forgot to read scripture, so I'll just read them when we get to the place because I did have them, and I realized I didn't even read them. So that was one of them, was the Joshua 24:15. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. So I think that's great for that, and I'll share the rest when we get to sections. Um, since I totally flaked on that today. So, um, yeah, family values are so important because values are the things that really are our moral compass. And even non-believers have their own version of a moral compass. We as humans, because we are a community-based organism, right? Even in that biology, we have guiding principles. And so obviously we live in a world where we have different ones and we have different opinions about what those are and all those things, all those moving pieces, but we it's a part of who we are and how we function as people. And so as a parent, it's one of the things that you're stewarding is how do we define those, develop those? And the truth is, I would even let your children be a part of the conversation. They might surprise you, like even though they're learning from us, depending on how old they get, they start learning and having capacity to think about it for themselves. And we all know children will be a truth teller in a heartbeat, right? They're going to tell you where a ball is getting dropped because they know, but they might inspire you. You never know. So don't be unwilling to let a child be a part of the conversation, but also recognize you are a teacher and you are a developer and you are guiding. And so again, that's where those conversations can be really helpful. But how do we infuse those things? One of the things we don't think about, we think about it in education, but we don't always think about it in our family, that we can infuse those things as part of our conversation in our day to day, right? Like if somebody comes home and tells you something about school, and you want to just jump to what happened. Well, how do we bring that back to our values? Well, let's talk about that. Okay, this happened with Jimmy at school today. Well, where does that hit you about the things that are important we talk about as a family? Well, he wasn't kind. Okay, well, let's talk about kindness and how do we manage that when people aren't kind, and how do we demonstrate kindness even in the heart? Like we can infuse that in conversation along the way because it continues to teach, but it becomes a living learning lab, right? And it happens in
Wow.
conversations. And so are we going to catch every single one? Does every single conversation in life have to be? No. But the more of those you have with children, you are fostering their development, their working understanding. You're also setting them up to start implementing those things. You set it up to be able to, hey, you got this part right, but let's talk about this piece of it, right? I do that even with clients. Like, hey, you did this great, but let's talk about this piece because that's still impacting a relationship, right? You've had
Wow.
huge growth here, but let's talk about those places where can we look at this a little bit more or explore this a little bit more? There's some other options for how we could handle that. That's where those family meal times are great times for those kinds of conversations, those bedtime talks, those, and again, you do that with different, if you have multiple children, you also may have your individual meetings with children, not just family meetings, because
Mhm.
sometimes you have different personality types and not everybody loves public demonstrative ways to discuss all the things, right? We need private spaces and confidant spaces. And so just being mindful about how are we managing that. And no matter what your family dynamic looks like, if you have a partner and a spouse who helps you do that and facilitate those things, and you can divide and conquer in some of those things depending on the children's needs, great. If you're a single parent and you know do you have people in your life that are pouring into your children that you trust who can also, you can say, here's what we're teaching, here's what we're reinforcing. Can you be a part of that? Because you have a working relationship with my child. You have a loving working relationship with my child. And I'm trusting you. I'm entrusting them to you and I'm trusting you. There's nothing wrong with having those conversations either. Is everybody going to do it exactly how you would do it? No. But
Mm-mm.
here's the
Mm.
rule of thumb. If I communicate it, what is more likely to happen?
Yeah.
Right?
That's good, Jessica. Is and you I would go ouch back then because the expectation shouldn't be as it was for me, is they're going to do it exactly the way that I would do it. Give them that freedom to be who God created them to be, and to if they're doing it and they become innovative, if you will, and
Mhm.
how they perform whatever the task is, allow them that freedom.
Mhm.
Don't be bent on, because you know, we play out what we've learned. And for me, it had to be done the way she did it, my mom did it, or the way my dad told me it had to be done that way. Not necessarily, because that's when we uh, I almost call it quenching their spirit. We're not supposed to quench the Holy Spirit, but quenching their spirit to bring
Mhm.
in possibly something that's going to be innovative. And then another thing you said that I love is involving and engaging them in those conversations and letting them know, well, we may not have the budget for what you came up with, but that's a great idea. One of the things we did years ago, and I see it playing out with Jessica now. I mean, years ago, at the end of each summer, a little bit in reverse, after the school year is completed, we have a meeting like the first or second week of the beginning of the summer holiday vacation. We'd have a meeting to discuss what are we going to do. And sometimes my husband wasn't a part of that because he was working and he didn't care. Whatever we came up with, that's what he went with. He just wanted to, he just needed to know the finances related to that. And we would plan like our days, what we're going to do this week, the summer vacation. And
Mhm.
Jessica was our um, event planner. She is yet our event planner. We're trying to do something as a family before the year is out. And, Bianca and Roma are out of the country right now, but they're um, putting in their notes and tell them their ideas and what
Yep.
Jessica's processing and coming up with ideas of when, where, how. And
Mhm.
I was thinking about that when I was looking at watching the group chat and chiming this week. So it was pretty interesting for you to say that.
Well, and I'm going to drop a bomb and move on because we've got two other little sections. So, the reality is expectations are really important to manage because one, your children are not going to do it exactly how you do it. They're going to learn from your modeling, but they're not going to do it. And your spouse is not going to do it exactly how you do it. And so that is something you're going to have to get with God and make okay. Because you got to figure out how to make that okay because you have different personalities and God put unique things in each of them. So how do I take the gold in me and let it be gold in them when it doesn't look exactly the same? And I know that's a bomb. We're going to leave it right there because we're going to go to the next thing, but sit with that. Okay. Don't leave that there. So the next thing I want to talk about is to do all of these things, to thrive as a family, to work as a team. We're kind of moving in that being road ready. We have to be able to communicate, creating safe places to be heard. We've got to be able to do that. And so strong communication is built on more than talking. It requires listening with understanding and responding with respect and creating an environment where every family member feels emotionally safe. During busy school months, conversations often get limited to homework, practice, schedules, to-dos, right? But in healthy families, intentionally create space to ask meaningful questions, celebrate successes, discuss challenges, and work through disagreements without fear of criticism. Active listening, patience, and empathy strengthen trust and reduce misunderstandings. A family members, as family members learn to communicate honestly and lovingly, they become better equipped to support one another both in victories and in difficult moments. I could listen, I'm actually considering putting together a communication course. That's something on my mind right now because I'm finding that this is a big deal. It's a big deal with children, and I've got a lot of experience with that, but also in marriages and just in life. And so we're saying a short bit, and there could be a lot of bit to say about this. We're not doing the a lot of bit today. So, my question for us is how can our family create more intentional opportunities each week for everyone to be heard and encouraged? Like, how do we create those spaces for good communication in the family?
It's so urgent. It is so urgent. And I heard you say that you understand the great need. One thing as I've worked and go through this grieving process is God has just placed on my heart the urgency of married women needing encouragement and basically in a nutshell being birthed out of me is a marriage ministry for women. And I'm excited to hear you say that communication is such a huge option for you to really focus on right now because that's one of the greatest opportunities in a marriage is understanding communication. good communication and being able to interpret what is not being said and
Mhm.
to understand your mate and your partner after 45 years of marriage, you know, prior to my husband's death is really some things that in the last two going into uh over a little over 2 months that I've recognized is why were we together so long? What was it? Of course, it was God and foundational, but learning your mate is so important to understand, especially when it comes to children. Now, if you're a single parent, whether that's the father or mother, it's also important is to make sure you're aware of how you project over to your children, because things that you don't say, don't think that they don't know. I don't know how it is, but they know. And I'll look to you, Jessica, maybe to fill in that gap from a clinical standpoint, as a therapist. But what I learned years ago is a baby, I had it with happen with Jess. When they're in an uncomfortable state in someone's arm, if they feel for whatever reason threatened in some regard, they're going to know it. They pick up. And that happened with her
Mhm.
is someone was holding her and she didn't want that person holding her
Mhm.
because she responded much differently than she did with anyone else that had access to her. And John was like, and we both looked at each other like, something's not right there.
Yep.
And I mean, the lady seemed a nice person and I known her, but for some reason, John was like, let me take her, you know.
That's
And
it.
it's the truth. They pick up, they know.
God wires us very uniquely, and children don't have language, right? Infants don't
Yeah.
have language. Toddlers are developing language, and so a lot of times they don't have their greatest ability to perceive their world is physical and environmental. And so they do read environments. That's how their little bodies are keeping them safe and alive,
Mm,
is they're very sensitive to behavior. That's why you see behavior from them. They're very sensitive to behavior, tones of voice, because that is how they, even when they don't have a language concept to even organize what we're even talking about, they don't even know what the word safety is or have a concept for that. But that more primal development in our bodies of how am I staying safe? Is this safe? Children read that in the atmosphere. It's why your 2 and 3-year-old hugs you when you're angry or you're sad, not because they heard the words and they know everything about you being upset or sad. They read the environment, not because they consciously understood it, but their threat system said something's not okay, right?
something's
And
not
they're trying
okay.
to return that to that space. And I will tell you, children are that doesn't stop. Even when they develop language, they're very sensitive to that. A lot of times children can see the truth that adults aren't speaking, right? Like they know the elephants in the room. The children in a family know the elephants in the room better than the adults do sometimes, right? And so that 10 years of working with kids, 20 years. And so, um, that's why communicating with them is also so important, because they have big feelings about it and they don't always have the words for it. And we need safe spaces, right? Because children will sometimes tell the truth. And here's the truth about us living in a broken world, and we're all in a process of moving from wounded to healed, and wherever we are in that process, your children know the truth
They
a lot of
do.
the time.
They
And they may
do.
not they may not understand the full perspective, because obviously parents have a bigger perspective about why they made choices and did things that kids don't always see, and that's
Mhm,
okay. We're not here to prove it to children right now. We're
mhm.
here to make because at the end of the day, they need security. They need safety. And the biggest thing we can do and for their self-esteem, for their confidence, for everything that we're doing is creating safe spaces to talk about the
Wow.
the good stuff and to talk about the things that are hard. And so what kind of environment are we developing to do that, right? We
Wow.
want to be mindful of, how am I speaking? Do I speak to children like they don't know any better? Let me tell you something. best thing I learned from my favorite psychiatrist in my time at the hospital was he talked to those kids just like they were grown. He
Yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
treat them like they were grown, but he talked to them like they understood what was going on in their own life and that
yeah.
they had
That's good.
perspective and that they had opinions and they had feelings. And it is one of the most valuable tools you can learn because, yes, as an adult, do I have more power? Of course I do. As an
Yeah,
adult, do I have more knowledge? Of course I do.
yeah,
Of course I do. Do I have more resources? Do I have more? Yes, yes.
yeah,
But that doesn't take away from the space they take up in relationship and who they are as people. They're developing people, right? And so
yeah.
we have to take that into account in the space that we're developing for them and how we communicate to them. Am I
Mm,
communicating like I know better than you, or am I communicating that I want to better understand your perspective before I bring the value of of my knowledge to your situation,
wow,
right? I always
wow.
Number one thing I teach people is learn to ask exploratory questions. Don't
Right.
enter a conversation under assumption. Enter a conversation to explore, to understand, and then bring your value to that conversation. Learn to ask exploratory questions.
I love it. And that's one of the principles of the Covey. Uh, Try not to figure out, seek to understand, than to try to be understood. And I may be botching that up a little bit, but it's so important that people know that you want to hear
Mhm.
what's on their heart.
Mhm.
And I've had people call me doing this cycle here, and they'll say, "Oh, how are you doing? How are you getting along?" And I started to tell them, but before I can get it out, "Oh, I'm so sad, and I'm so this," and they're telling me all about themselves, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you know, I can't hear this right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
because and then you go on to tell me about your world, but you're trying to check on me with my world. Are you really? Are
Mm.
you really?" And so children, they can pick up on the genuineness of your compassion. Is
Yeah.
it compassion for them, or is it compassion that you're just wanting to get beyond, just you want to have the opportunity to say, "Oh, I ask my children what they're doing," and tell somebody, "Oh, I always listen to my kids," but are you really listening? Are you compassionate about what they're compassionate about? Are you
Right.
showing any compassion there? That's important.
And and the other thing I'll say, and we'll cover this last point real quick, is your children are going to say things that are hurtful. And they may not do it on purpose. They might do it on purpose sometimes, but the reality is children sometimes tell the truth because they're just being matter of fact about their observations. And one of the things we have to be mindful about safe spaces is my job as the grown up
Uh-huh.
is to take a break if I need to and to talk to the right people before I come back and speak to my child about it. Okay. Because we can blame children for doing that, but the reality is that child may have an observation that hits something that's still wounded in us. And whose job is it to deal with a wound? Is it my child's to address my wound or is it mine?
Awesome.
And so
Awesome.
I we live in a family, so they're not unaffected. And don't be wrong, they're people too, and they behave in ways that are like again, we could talk weeks and weeks on communication, but just be mindful, ask exploratory questions, and know when to take a break and when to deal with this with your people
Yes.
because stuff will come up in family conversations. And it's okay to say, I hear you. I heard what you just said to me, but I need time to sit with that.
Yeah.
I need time
Yeah.
to sit with what you just shared with me. I'm willing to come back and talk to you about this at this point, but I
Gosh.
need to go away and digest that a little bit.
Give me a moment is the best thing you could say. Give me a moment. Give me a few minutes to pray about it, to get my head on straight, I used to call it. But acting out of impulse can end up detrimental and can be long lasting in the child's life as well, you
Well, and
know?
it's better than silence and stonewalling. Like we
Yeah.
don't want to just shut some, we
No.
don't have to keep communicating, but we do need to communicate. I heard you and I'm considering it. I'm not ready to talk about it. Can I come back?
Excellent. Very good.
That's all
Very
you got to
good.
do. I heard what
Yeah.
you said. I need time to digest it. We'll come back and discuss this at a later time. You have
Excellent.
created so much. You've set a boundary, but you have set security in that boundary with those two sentences,
Mm,
right? Instead of
yeah.
leaving somebody afraid and anxious
And
that
what is going
they've
to happen
ruptured the
next? Yeah. Yeah.
relationship, you've
Uh-huh.
given a gift by
Yeah.
saying, I heard you. I need time to think about this before I'm prepared to talk any further. I'll come back.
Yeah.
That simple, but that eliminates so much anxiety, especially for children who, because if we don't do that, we create fear of telling the truth.
Yeah.
And is
Yeah.
that really the legacy we want? Fear of telling the truth.
Mm,
So,
and something in that instance could encourage that or discourage that.
right.
So we have to be very, very careful.
So my last thing real quick, and we'll be as quick as we can, Beth, but working as a team, choosing unity, cohesion, and forgiveness. A thriving family functions like a healthy team where everyone contributes, serves one another, and works towards shared goals. Teamwork requires humility, flexibility, and willingness to help without keeping score. It also requires extending grace when mistakes happen because no family member is perfect. Forgiveness prevents resentment from growing and allows relationships to heal quickly. Unity does not mean everyone always agrees. It means choosing love, respect, and commitment even during disagreements. When family members carry one another's burdens, celebrate each other's successes, and quickly offer forgiveness, the family becomes stronger, more resilient, and better equipped to face life's challenges. So, my question is, what are some practical ways we can contribute to greater unity, teamwork, and forgiveness throughout our year? And how do we help our families find success in this?
Wow. And that's a loaded question.
I
And
know.
it is totally loaded because I could spend a lot of time on each one of those, but I'm going to choose unity, teamwork, and forgiveness, all three of them. No, I'm just going to tell you, as far as unity, you have to create space for unity. You
Mhm.
have to have time that is spent on just unity. Some people call it make it a memory. It could be playing checkers, family uh, night, something relaxing that creates that space of unity. Yeah, going to church is we're going as a unit, but I'm talking aside from that, creating unity amongst your family. Find something that you all do together. I don't even care, but I wish it'd be something else. But if it's watching a favorite television, so that's, as I could say a whole lot about unity, but I want to quickly add something about teamwork and forgiveness. It's one thing that I believe that putting God as a part of the team was urgent for my husband and I to have a successful marriage. Like I said, listen, we were a family, we were a husband and wife. We had challenges just like everybody else. But what kept us as a team is making sure that in our marriage, God, it was a covenant, and God was a part of that. And so, keeping God centered to that, then taking him to our family when we built a family, start creating and raising our family, is that teamwork not an option. You just got to uh you're a part of the team, and there's certain responsibilities that you have to that team. And I could go on about that one a little bit. Forgiveness, you know, forgiveness. Oh my God. Jessica, one day, sometime, if God gives it to you, let's just spend some time talking about forgiveness. That is so sad to me. I've seen some ugly things in the last over 2 months towards unforgiveness in my life. Things where people were just not able to press through their unforgiveness to even in the loss of a loved one. I mean, it's sad to me. It's really, really sad. And what is it about? Nothing. As Drum you would say, he used to mock his one of his cousins. Nothing. Nothing. It's about nothing. Absolutely nothing but jealousy, envy, and strife. People, set your children up for success. Set yourself up for success. Learn how to hear the matter, reconcile the matter, and forgive the matter and keep it moving. Whether it's separation, that's fine. But sometimes what will bring God the greatest glory is experiencing reconciliation. Because he said in 2 Corinthians 5:21, I'm having a hard time, and I'm going to stop with this one, Jessica, and you can wrap us up. But 2 Corinthians, I believe, 5:21 says, I want to just read it because no, it's 5:19. I'm glad I turned to it. 2 Corinthians 5:19, to wit, that God was in Christ reconciling the world unto himself, not imputing their trespasses upon them, and have committed to us the word of reconciliation. When people say they now understand irreconcilable differences, I don't. I'm having a hard time with that one because God says we are ministers of reconciliation. And it's important. I know sometimes you have a party that don't want to reconcile and you can't control that. But for the most part, we need to figure out how Paul said he dies daily and die to some of that stuff that I'm holding on to. And also remember Romans 5:8, while I was yet a sinner, Christ died for me. But it's a sad situation when Christians, I'm talking to Christians, I'm not talking unbeliever and a believer. I'm talking Christians cannot figure out how to walk in forgiveness. And that's a Beth Copeland. That's just me, and that's my story, and I'm gonna stick to it.
Yeah, unity is important because it puts us on the same page. And unity does not mean we have to agree with everything all the time. Doesn't mean that we believe the exact same thing, but we can come together for a great purpose. And part of that purpose could be loving each other. Part of that purpose can be undergirding each other, especially in the family space, right? And the scriptures for this section were Psalm 133 verse 1, how good and pleasant is it when God's people live together in unity, and Colossians 3:13, bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgives you. And here's what I'll say. This one, I've been telling people this a lot lately, but we can make intentional choices in spite of what's happened to us. Now, that does not negate the need sometimes for good counseling and good coaching. I'm a counselor. I know I had to have it myself. There were things that I couldn't quite break through without doing the work and letting the Lord into those places, letting myself grieve some of those things that have been. And so there's a real truth that the things we have been through impact our ability to trust, to believe, to do those things, to even trust God with the truth of who he says he is. And I am the biggest proponent of, then he sees you. He knows exactly where you are. He knows your heart. Most of us have a heart that we want to be in loving, connected relationships with him and with each other. And so we sometimes have to take that step, even afraid, to Okay, I'm going to go talk to that counselor. Okay, I'm going to work with that person. Okay, I'm going to be willing to look at what's in my own heart and my own behavior. Okay, I'm willing to, and you don't have to do it all in one day. The reality is we've sometimes been through a lot and families have been through a lot, right? And so you've got generational, we don't even have all the time in the day today. You got generational stuff, you got all kinds of things that bear witness to how these things show up. But the one thing I can do is I can intentionally decide that I'm going to be intentional about healing, communicating, making decisions, that I'm going to see my family as my team. And again, we talked about the identified family, because the truth is sometimes, like Beth said, we deal with people who make their choices and we can't control that. But with the family that I've got, in the form that it's in. And God may expand family in your healing process, because he may restore, he may reconcile, he can do all kinds of things if we're just willing to say yes, because the yes brings freedom in my life. Forgiveness brings freedom in my life, and it allows the Lord to bring freedom in other places for us and for other people. And so,
And Jessica, real quick, unforgiveness, and I think it's Ephesians 5:29. If we don't forgive others, God will not forgive us. So that's a case for forgiveness as well. Is to remember that. And I love where you said, and you caution people that unity doesn't always mean that we agree, you know? Uh, yes,
yeah.
uh the Ephesians, I just want to give the correct scripture. Ephesians 5, mm. Okay, so but it's 5, it's in Ephesians 5. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat, but we have to forgive one another, because if we don't, God will not forgive us. I'll find it. Oh, 32, 432. And be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you. Ephesians 4:32. It's so important that we learn that scripture. We practice that scripture that Paul's taken time to really just break it down. And it talks about unity through various gifts. I recommend reading chapter 4 of Ephesians. It's a great, great opportunity to learn about it. I mean, this has been wonderful, Jessica, today. You got a final point for us?
Well, I have your call to action.
Okay, excellent.
Um, I want you to think about today. If you need to re-listen to today, do that. But I want you to pick one of these four things: preparation, direction, communication, and all the things about teamwork, unity, cohesion, and forgiveness. Pick one of the four. And I want you to set aside time to have an intentional family discussion about that topic this week.
Awesome. Awesome. This is wonderful. I feel like we really needed two parts to this, to break the first two on one session and the next two, but I know we've got GGG next week, right?
Yeah.
Because you were going to do them both then. Yeah.
Well, I
But
was going to, yeah.
yeah, it's really worthy of a revisit, I'd almost say. Uh, I don't know. You pray about it and we'll see. But this is really good discussion and very, very helpful. And I hope others will find it useful, especially those that are building young family. No, okay, Holy Spirit, especially everyone. It's just good practice for everyone to be able to this entire topic that you put out there. And I love the way you said, now we're ready for the road. Okay. Road ready. Okay. This has been wonderful today. The announcements that I have to let you know that we have some awesome replays on next year on next week for Transformation Tuesday, as well as Living Well Wednesday, because we've got to focus on preparation for God Golfing Girls. And so we're shutting down, bringing on live broadcasts, and going to do a couple of replays. We got some awesome replays that are worthy of, awesome broadcasts that are worthy of replays. So please tune in and tune up to some of that. I want to encourage those that are women. If you're not already registered, great opportunity to join us on Friday evening for our blackout party, all black party. Okay. We determined the first of the year that this year we're going to do it differently. We have a few surprises for you. I'm excited. The whole team is excited, and we're working really hard to cross some T's and dot some I's. So keep us in your prayers. If you're a sponsor or if you're in a position to sponsor us, we would welcome that opportunity for you to be able to be a golf hole sponsor. We have two opportunities still outstanding that we'd love to put your name uh, on the boards and assign you to a hole. So please reach out to us. Also, if you want to add in our magazine that is so awesome every year, and it goes out to so many people that will be able to see what you provide as a service and be able to possibly reach out to you to do business with you. And for those on, like I said, on Friday evening for that party, or Sunday for our closeout session where Jessica and Fern, Grace to Care, are going to join live and connect with the Living Well team with Julie Mills. Shantae Robulick is coming in from Alabama, who closes us out every month virtually for Living Well. A great opportunity for our moderator, Pamela Bridgman, to facilitate that session for us. It's going to be, and I get to play on that Sunday too. I get to participate as a speaker with Camille Babin, and also to be on the Living Well panel. So I'm excited about that. And both of those opportunities are only 175, but don't let that stop you. Reach out to us and let us know that you're interested, and we'll see if we can't work something out for you. Love you. Thank you so much, Jessica. God has a plan.
I'm a part of it.
And I am a part of it. Yes. Thank you guys, Rebecca and Renee, and all of those that are on the Jadana be here from Belgium. And so I'm excited. She's speaking on that Saturday. And I'm so excited that she's coming and bringing people with her, bringing someone with her. So I'm excited about that. And we look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. God bless you. And yeah, not casual. Know it. God does have a plan, and you are a part of it. Thank you, guys.